Hi, it's Lucy. Today I'm here to do my February wrap-up. Instead of blabbering on, I'm going to tell you about February. So in February I read 7 books and I took part in 3 readathons. I took part in the Contemporary-thon, the Booktube games, and the Blackathon. So the goal of this month was to help out my team in the Booktube games and to read as many books by Black authors as I possibly could, and I feel like I succeeded. I only read 1 book that wasn't by a Black author, we'll get to that, but all the other books that I read during this month were by Black authors, and I feel comfortable recommending all of them. So yeah, that's a success in my book. I have a reading vlog for the Contemporary-thon linked down below. It's mostly King of Scars vlog because that is what was taking over my reading at the time, and King of Scars is not a contemporary, you're correct. I have the timestamps linked down below for all the books that I'm going to be talking about in this video, so if you're ever bored by me, I guess, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps I have linked down below. That's what they're there for. But if you want to hear about all the books I read, just keep listening. Before I get to that, I'm just going to insert a little Booktube games wrap up here because I didn't do one. For the Blackathon, I'm going to talk about the challenges that I completed as I get to the books. There were 4 reading challenges specifically. I technically completed 3 of them, not specifically with the books that I wanted to complete them with, but it is what it is, and I'll tell you about that when I get to that. But now the Booktube games. This is what my Booktube games tracker looked like, just a page tracker. I'm not sure if tracking my reading really helped at all because, like I said, some days I didn't read at all. Most days I did read over 100 pages, which is good, but this also includes audiobook pages, so keep that in mind. I probably won't be doing this again this month, like this reading tracker. Overall, I ended up reading 2,960 pages, so I don't know, is that good or bad? I don't know. So first I finished Let's Talk About Love by Kann. This is about Alice, who's a biromantic asexual girl, and she has just finished her freshman year of university, I want to say. It's either freshman or sophomore year, I'm unsure. And she's starting summer vacation, and she's ready to have a great summer vacation away from her family, just working at the library. But then her girlfriend breaks up with her, and Alice has to deal with the disagreements her family has about her chosen college path. And to top it all off, Alice can't stop thinking about the cute new guy at work. For the Blackathon, this counted for a romance between 1 Black person and 1 person of color because the cute new guy at work is Asian American. This also counts for an intersectional Black character because Alice, like I said, is biromantic, asexual, and she's Black. I thought the story was pretty cute. I enjoyed reading it. I found me and Alice had an odd similarity in that we both have older parents, parents who are older than, I guess, usual. And we both have older siblings who are also older than not older than usual, but I think her siblings are more than 10 years older than her, which is the case for my siblings. And I thought that was a fun similarity. I've never seen that in a book. And we're both Black. Hashtag relatable. Overall, I enjoyed this. I really liked how this had family-oriented stuff. And also this dealt with a friendship, even though this is technically a romance book. And a lot of the romance that I have read, which I'm not saying I've read a lot, but a lot of the romance I have read, the romance is the only plot and they tend not to deal with anything else. This, for example, dealt with Alice's relationship with her friends, and although I wasn't a huge fan of how it was dealt with, I still liked that it was there. And it talks about expectations your family and parents can have of you and what happens when they don't coincide with what you want for yourself. As for the asexual representation, I don't feel comfortable speaking to that. I've seen some asexual reviewers think that the rep was great, and I've seen others who really did not think it was great, but I'm not asexual, so I don't feel comfortable saying that. I think that asexual people might find themselves in this story, so I'm glad it's out there for them. I do have kind of one gripe about, not about the main character being asexual, but kind of about how it's dealt with in the context of other people. For example, the blurb for this book says that Alice's girlfriend, or ex-girlfriend I guess, ended things with Alice because Alice was asexual, and that's not really true because Alice never told her girlfriend that she was asexual, so I felt like that wasn't exactly fair. But like I said, I'm not asexual. But anyway, just throwing that out there. I gave Let's Talk About Love 4 stars. The next book that I read was Miles Morales by Jason Reynolds. This follows Miles Morales while he's your average Black teenage boy who has a crush on the girl who sits in front of him during history, spends his free time playing video games with his best friend / roommate, all while going to a prestigious private school on scholarship. He also just so happened to be bitten by a spider that gives him superpowers, and he becomes Spider-Man. We follow Miles as he returns to school after suspension that he got due to a misunderstanding due to his powers, and we see how all of that affects him. We see him dealing with his crush, dealing with potentially bad history teacher, dealing with his family. And yeah, it was a fun read. I gave it 3.5 stars. I did go into this having previously read the original comics with Miles Morales, which I think were Ultimate Spider-Man. I feel like if you haven't read them, you might kind of be lost because this doesn't really give a lot of backstory. I guess you have to just know that going in that you're not getting a lot of backstory. If you're looking for a Marvel movie in a book, this is not it. This mostly deals with Miles just like living his normal life, and like his powers do affect his life because, like I said, he ends up getting suspended because of something that happens with his powers. But like there's not a whole lot of Spider-Man fighting people or him even in the costume running around doing anything. It's mostly him at school, him at home, like going back and forth, talking to his friend. Like it reads more like a contemporary. So if you're into that, then I recommend it for that. I thought Miles as a character was like a sweet young boy. I enjoyed reading about him. Usually I do sometimes have problems reading about teenage boys, but he didn't bother me so much. And I enjoyed reading about Miles' daily life, being one of the few black kids going to a majority white private school and seeing how his family is. Miles is like half Puerto Rican? I don't know. Is his mom Puerto Rican? His mom is Spanish speaking. Yeah, his mom is Latina. His dad is black. Is American black. I don't know how to say that. So he is Afro-Latino. My problems with this book was that most of the like conflict seemed contrived, which I know you're being like, well, this is about a kid who has spider powers. I don't know what you want from it. And yes, that's true. But like that wasn't even the issue. Like for example, the suspension that I mentioned earlier, which is in the blurb and is in the first chapter, he gets suspended because he asked to go to the bathroom too many times and his teacher said no. And so he goes anyway. And like, yes, the backstory for him going to the bathroom wasn't that he actually needed to go to the bathroom, but no one knew that. Like, it's not like he asked to go to the bathroom and they found him not in the bathroom. That wasn't why he got suspended. It's just because his teacher said no and he went anyway. And I don't know, that just seems so weird to me. Like, even believing the school system is like that whack, which I mean, school systems are pretty whack. So that, I believe that happened. But then his parents like punish him super hard, and it just didn't seem to fit with how we see them act in the rest of the book, or how they're supposed to act, or I guess my preconceived notion of how they act based on what I did read in the comics. I did stop reading around like issue like 18 or like 20, so it has been a long time, but it just seems super weird, especially because his father does know that he has powers and knows that's why he got suspended, and he still gets like punished for something that wasn't really his fault. I don't know, felt weird to me. And that wasn't the only instance of like that kind of thing happening. So it just bothered me a lot. It just didn't seem realistic to me, which again, I know this is about superheroes, but like in this context, it didn't seem realistic. Little and Lion by Brandy Colbert. This is about Suzette, who comes home from boarding school for the summer. Now that she's back in LA where her parents and her older brother are, she has to deal with seeing how her friends have gotten along without her, and as well as how her family has gotten along without her. Suzette is like dealing with the fact that her stepbrother Lionel was diagnosed with bipolar disorder right before she ends up going to boarding school. So this is the first time she's really gonna see him since that. And along with her like dealing with her family stuff, we follow Suzette as she tries to come to terms with being bisexual and what that means for her. I also feel like I should note that Suzette is a Black Jewish girl who grew up in a multiracial blended family, just because I feel like anyone who's looking for any of that rep, probably hard to find, especially Black Jewish girls. So it's in this book, and I am not Jewish, so I cannot tell you how well the Jewish rep is done, but according to reviews I've seen, it is done pretty well. Overall, as a story, I really liked it. I enjoyed reading it. I gave it 4 stars. This is one of those books without a plot per se, but I didn't mind. It's like one of those meandering contemporary stories where like literally we're just following Suzette along during the summer, and like stuff happens and we see how she reacts to the things that happen, and I enjoyed it. I like seeing Suzette grow and change throughout the summer, especially her coming to terms with her bisexuality. She's a super loving family, and I love that it was like a non-traditional family because her mom is her biological mother and her mother is together with her stepfather, but technically they're not married. So that's like a different thing that we don't usually see in YA, even though they are a family and they are together, they just don't have like the paper. So I really like seeing that. We get to see like even Suzette's relationship with her stepdad, and I love seeing things like that. So cool. And I like seeing her friendships and crushes blossom. There is kind of a love triangle aspect, more like a love quadrangle. Some people might see that as stereotypical, and I'm not bisexual, so I can't say that it's not. But personally, I could definitely see a problem with the fact that Suzette basically likes a guy and a girl at the same time. But personally, I really did see it as Suzette just trying to figure herself out. Again, I don't have bipolar disorder, so I can't speak on the rep on that, but I thought it was interesting to have a book portray how a mental illness can affect the other people around the person with the mental illness. And I think this book could be affirming for teens who are maybe in a similar situation with a sibling who is struggling with their mental illness, or just someone close to them struggling with that. And so overall, again, I really enjoyed this and I would gladly recommend it. If you have previously enjoyed standard contemporary stories, I'm pretty confident you'll enjoy this. King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. So this is the book everyone has been waiting for. This is the first book in the Nikolai duology, where we follow Nikolai and Zoya after the events of Shadow and Bone, and Nina after the events of the Six of Crows duology. This is like years after the Shadow and Bone trilogy and like pretty soon after the Six of Crows duology, if you want to like make sense of the timeline. And saying that, you definitely have needed to read Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows, both those series, in order to read this. All the main characters are old characters. This book really cannot stand on its own. You need to have read both those series. If you have just read Six of Crows, you really can't read this. If you've just read Shadow and Bone, I guess you can read this, but you'll still be confused. And even having read both, it was still kind of hard for me to follow because it's been years since I've read Shadow and Bone, so I honestly didn't remember a lot about Nikolai or Zoya. That said, I still really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. I know a lot of people had mixed feelings and I can see where some of that came from, but I still liked it. I've seen people say that Nikolai is like out of character, and like I said, it's been a while since I read Shadow and Bone, so I don't really remember him that much. I remember liking him, and I still liked him here, and to me, what I remembered from the Shadow and Bone trilogy was like his sense of humor and that kind of thing, and like just his air, and I felt like that was the same in here. But once again, I do have some distance from where he was originally portrayed. But overall, I felt similarly to this book as I felt for Six of Crows, where I enjoyed it, but the first half was really slow and it really picked up in the second half. That's when I really started to like get into it. I also want to say that calling this the Nikolai duology, I feel like was a bad decision. I feel like they should change the name of the series because this is about way more than just Nikolai. Like, yes, I guess everyone is kind of affected by like what's going on with Nikolai, but like the characters are really on their own journey. So I feel like this should have been called something else. And like specifically with Nina, her story takes place completely separately from everyone else's. And it was nice to see her, but it could have been its own book. It didn't bother me per se, but like I just felt like that's even more reason to not call this the Nikolai duology. The ending of this did have me shook, so that's always a plus in my mind. I don't know how I feel about it still. I'm now like weeks removed from having read this, and I'm kind of annoyed about what's happening, but I'm also intrigued. So yeah, I also feel like this is going to take a Cassandra Clare turn, just like based on how the series are going, where basically we just have a bunch of series all set in the same world. And I'm not complaining yet, but I don't know, I don't know how I feel about everything, but it is very interesting. And I am excited to read the second book, and hopefully they change the name of the series. American Street by Zoboi. This follows Fabiola, who is meant to immigrate to America and move to Chicago with her mother, but then her mother ends up getting stopped by immigration and they detain her. But Fabiola is actually an American citizen because she was born here and then went back to Haiti with her mother. So she gets to continue on, and so she has to deal with like coming to basically new to her country because she grew up her whole life in Haiti. And so she has to deal with learning all about America and getting to know her extended family, who she's never actually spent any time with. Not gonna lie, I listened to the audiobook and I was definitely distracted by the accent of the narrator because I am Haitian American. My parents are from Haiti, and the accent the narrator used is not any Haitian accent I've ever heard. I was really questioning my life as I was reading it because I was like, do I not know what a Haitian accent sounds like? So that was like half the beginning of the book for me, honestly. That was distracting to me. I don't know if it's because I sped it up. I tried to listen to it slowed down and it didn't. I don't know. I looked up the narrator also because I was like, maybe I'm just making it up, and she is not Haitian as far as I could tell. So that's probably why. So if you're Haitian, you might be distracted by the accent, or maybe I just don't know what a Haitian accent is. I don't know. But other than that, I thought the book was interesting. Reading from Fabiola's perspective was intriguing, as we don't often get the perspective of children who immigrate to America. And seeing her bond with the family she's getting to know, I thought was interesting, and seeing how she just gets used to life in America, specifically in Chicago, in the area that she is in. There are some fabulous elements going on in here, and I thought they were interesting, but I didn't love how they ended up being used. But if you're interested in that, it's in here. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. What a Time to Be Alone by Chidera Eggerue. This is like a self-help type book with cute advice and cute design elements. There's a lot of typography and stuff like that, which I feel like is the selling point of the book a little bit. But yeah, it was cute to read. This contains a lot of like Nigerian proverbs, which added a bit of the author's culture. I gave this 3.5 stars because it is kind of like surface level advice and nothing in it was really groundbreaking, but it was a nice read. I would have read it in one sitting, but I fell asleep. So I read it in 2 sittings. And yeah, it's a pretty short book, but yeah, it was nice to read. And the final book that I read in the month of February was Around the Way Girl by Taraji P. Henson. This is Taraji P. Henson's memoir. She's probably best known for her role as Cookie Lion in the show Empire on Fox. That is where I know her from. She's been in like other movies and stuff, but I have not seen any of those movies actually. I do follow her on Instagram, social media. And in this book, she discussed her childhood growing up with a single mother in Washington, D.C. And then she like details her journey to becoming an actress, to becoming the actress she is today. I enjoyed reading this. I enjoy a celebrity memoir. This is no different. This wasn't super groundbreaking. I learned more about Taraji, which is always the goal. I learned that she seems to be a super forgiving person because the way she describes her father particularly was very interesting to me, because her father did end up in her life later on in life. He did physically abuse her mother, and then after he got himself together, he was more in her life, I guess, and she like forgave him for that. And then later on in her life, she also became a single mother, and her partner, her son's father, did also hit her, and her forgiveness of that is an interesting thing to see. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I've not been in that position, but I thought it was very interesting. And then even other people who've done her wrong or like did things, she like seems to forgive all of them, or at least she did in this book. And I thought that was the most interesting aspect. That wasn't the purpose of this book, to show that she forgave people, but like it's what I took from it. So it was interesting. I liked it. And there are pictures. If you read the physical book, I actually listened to the audiobook, but I own the physical book, so I just flipped through the pictures. So those are all the books I read in February. This wrap up, I'm sure, was still very long, even though I read less than half of the books that I read in December. If you have any opinions about any of the books that I mentioned in this video, please be sure to leave a comment down below, and also tell me what was your favorite book that you read in the month of February. My favorite book, I think my favorite book that I read in February was Little Lion, but let me know what was your favorite book that you read in February in the comments down below, which I think I already said. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to my channel because I make more videos where I talk about books, and hit the notification bell if you so choose. I won't like force you to hit it because honestly, I don't have the notifications on for anybody on YouTube. But if you want my notifications on, you can hit the bell. Follow me on my social media because I post frequently on there. I have Goodreads and Twitter. I think that's all there is to say. Thank you again so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.